You hear the silence first. Not peace. Just the terrible quiet after a battlefield stops screaming. Bodies sprawl across mud that's more blood than water. Ottoman banners snap overhead. But you're not looking at the dead. A line of women stumbles through the carnage. Wrists bound. These aren't peasants. You can see it in the torn embroidery, the velvet caked with filth. These are wives. Daughters. The families of men whose blood is soaking into the ground. An officer rides along the line. Armor spotless. He points, casual, like selecting fruit. 2 women are pulled from the line. One collapses. The other walks defiant, even as chains replace rope. You want to believe this is chaos. Soldiers drunk on victory. You'd be wrong. Every officer knows his role. Every chain counted. Every destination determined before the first sword was drawn. This isn't violence born from rage. This is administration. A machine, and these women are being fed into it with the same efficiency as tax collection. The youngest can't be more than 15. Biting her lips so hard you see blood. An older woman whispers instructions for survival in a world they are about to enter. A world where their names will be stolen. Where their children will be property. Where compliance won't free them. This is 1521. Or 1537. Or 1573. The year doesn't matter because this scene repeats across decades, across 3 continents. This same machinery turning. Grinding. Relentless. You found crimson historians. We don't sanitize the past. We resurrect voices someone tried to bury. Because if we're going to understand how empires really worked, we need to look at what they left out. We need to look at what happened to the women. This isn't about one battle. This is about a system. A legal framework. A machine built by the Ottoman Empire between 1453 and the 1600s that didn't just defeat armies, it destroyed the families of the defeated. With paperwork. What happened wasn't chaos. It was policy. Written down. Approved by courts. Taxed by the state. Recorded in ledgers that still exist today. What's about to unfold isn't random violence. This is erasure. Taking a woman and unmaking her so completely that in 5 years, she won't remember her mother's face. She'll answer to a new name. Pray to a new god. Speak a new language. That's the goal. To transform them into something useful. To weaponize their wounds. And it worked. For centuries. Within hours, specialized officers move through the aftermath. Not soldiers. Bureaucrats who carry ledgers and ink pots. Their job isn't to fight, it's to collect. They separate captives immediately. Gender first. Then age. Then status. You can tell status by fabric even when torn. Silk means nobility. Wool means merchant class. Officers assess value in seconds, teeth, hands, posture. Noble women get marked. Colored cloth around the arm. Red for commanders' wives. These won't see common markets. Their humiliation serves strategic purposes. Nothing breaks a defeated people like seeing their general's wife serving wine at the sultan's table. The others are bound in groups of 20. Rope thick enough to leave permanent scars. Officers separate mothers from young sons almost immediately. The boys go into the Devsham system, the blood tax, turning Christian children into Muslim soldiers. A mother watches her son led away. Usually the last time. The march begins within 48 hours. 20 miles a day in real chains now. Forged iron. 10 women linked at wrists. If one falls, she drags others down. Efficient. Deliberately cruel. Some don't survive the journey. Guards remove dead women from chains and leave them roadside. No burial. Ledgers updated, 1 less unit of cargo. Survivors arrive at Constantinople or Bursa gaunt and hollow. They know. This is where it gets worse. Professional appraisers examine every woman. Check teeth. Run hands through hair. Press muscles. Ask questions, can you read? Sew? Cook? Every skill adds value. Everything is written down. Estimated age, distinguishing marks, skills, origin. This goes into massive ledgers. Centuries later, historians will find these books and realize the scale. Thousands of names. Tens of thousands. Taxation happens here. 20% of sale price goes to imperial treasury. This is legal. War pays for itself. Then the market doors open. Constantinople's Avret Pazar. Woman market. They didn't make the name subtle. Stone walls 3 feet thick. Women stand on raised platforms worn smooth by decades of feet. Arranged by category, skilled labor, concubines, young and trainable. They've been cleaned. Not kindness. Dirty merchandise sells for less. Buyers arrive at dawn. Wealthy merchants. Officials. Brothel owners. They browse casually, evaluating options like shopping for livestock. Buyers inspect like you'd inspect a horse. Look at teeth. Run fingers through hair. Press muscles. Ask questions. How old? What skills? Have you borne children? That last question matters. Proven fertility is worth more if the buyer wants heirs. Some buyers want demonstrations. Claimed weavers must prove it. Singers must perform. The market provides testing rooms. Price negotiations happen while women listen to men determine their monetary value. A skilled weaver, 50 gold pieces. A young beautiful virgin, 200. An older woman with no abilities, 20. Market scribes record everything. Buyer's name. Price. Tax. Physical description. All into official government records. Because this is completely, totally, officially legal. Ottoman law recognizes slavery. Judges bless these transactions. Courts enforce ownership. Markets process hundreds of women daily during peak seasons. Thousands per month. The psychological warfare starts here. Women see the efficient processing. They understand they are not special. They're units. Inventory. Replaceable parts in a machine so large that fighting it is meaningless. That understanding breaks most of them right here. Markets close at dusk. Platforms wash down. Tomorrow there will be more merchandise. There's always more. The machine keeps turning. You've seen the paintings. Western artists made harems look like paradise. They got it catastrophically wrong. Topkapi Palace. The harem occupies the most secure section, guarded so extensively that escape is architecturally impossible. 400 women during peak periods. Existing in rigid hierarchy. You enter at the lowest. You'll likely die there. Guards are eunuchs. Everywhere. Watching constantly. Windows are high, barred with ironwork. Doors locked from outside. Guarded from both sides. Identity erasure begins immediately. Your name is taken. Literally. You're given a new Turkish name. Gul means rose. A means moon. Beautiful words for broken women. You'll be beaten for using your old name. Language prohibition is enforced brutally. Turkish is mandatory. Speaking your native language is punishable. First offense, a slap. Second, withheld food. Third, isolation cells in darkness for days. They're making you forget the sound of your mother tongue. Religious conversion comes next. You'll learn Islamic prayers. Pray 5 times daily. Learn Quran in Arabic, a language you don't speak, verses you don't understand. Refusing isn't an option. Women who refuse are removed. You never see them again. So you convert. Your conversion is official, recorded, irreversible under Islamic law. Which means even if you escape and make it home, the church won't take you back. You've committed apostasy. You're damned in both worlds. The harem operates on manufactured competition. 400 women and 1 man. Most will never be chosen. Will spend decades growing old watching younger women arrive. So women compete. Sabotage each other. The system breaks them. They break each other while guards watch. Noble wives receive special treatment. It's worse. Your husband was a commander who held a fortress before Ottomans breached the walls. He died fighting. You're assigned to the household of the Ottoman general who killed him. You serve him. Pour his wine. Stand while he brags about the siege. You understand enough Turkish to hear him describe how your husband died. Watch him laugh. This is intentional. It sends messages. To you, resistance is futile. To conquered peoples, this is what happens when you fight. Some women choose death. Records mention suicides with administrative detachment. No elaboration. They don't care. Years pass. Prayer. Meals. Lessons. Waiting. Watching others chosen while you're not. Growing older. Realizing one day you barely remember your mother's face. That you dream in Turkish. That your old name sounds strange. You've been erased. The palace killed who you were and kept your body walking around. And this is one of the better outcomes. At least you're fed regularly. Not in a brothel. The harem is hell with silk cushions. 400 women at any time. Multiply across centuries. Thousands who entered those doors and never left. Who died without speaking their real names again. If you think this history matters, if you believe these women's stories deserve to be heard, then show Crimson historians you're here for truth, not comfort. Subscribe. Because 73% of you watch without subscribing. Every subscriber tells YouTube this history matters. Subscribe now. Or don't. But if you don't, ask yourself why. Ask yourself what it means to bear witness to suffering and scroll past without taking even that small action. The pregnancy announcement should be joyful. In the harem, it's the moment your womb becomes a weapon pointed at you. Ottoman law is explicit. Any child born to an enslaved woman belongs to her master. Fully. Completely. The child is property from birth. You carry the child 9 months. Go through labor that might kill you. If complications arise, they'll save the baby and let you die because babies are valuable. You survive. Hold your infant. And understand this child will never truly be yours. If it's a boy and the Sultan fathered him, he might become Sultan. But you won't raise him. Royal sons are removed from mothers early. You might see him occasionally. Most likely he'll think of you as that woman who gave birth, not mother. If a lesser official fathered him, he might be trained as a clerk. Or sold. Just sold, like livestock. You have no say. If your son is 8 to 10, he might be selected for devsham. The blood tax. Your son is taken, forcibly converted, trained to serve the empire that enslaved his mother. If he excels, he might one day oversee capture of other Christian boys. The system cannibalizes its victims. You'll probably never see him again. Girls face worse. Your daughter inherits your enslaved status. Automatically. From birth. She'll grow up watching you serve and learn this is normal. That resistance is pointless. When she reaches puberty, she'll be assessed like you were. Examined. Priced. If beautiful, maybe a concubine. If skilled, household work. If neither, manual labor. Your daughter is merchandise, and you're forced to prepare her for life identical to yours. To help fashion her own chains. Some masters marry enslaved women's daughters to their sons. It's not redemption. It's producing the next generation of slaves within the household. 3 generations of the same family serving the same household. This is womb weaponization. Your reproductive capacity becomes a tool of empire expansion. Every child you bear strengthens the system that enslaved you. Birth documentation is meticulous. Every child recorded. Name, date, parentage. Your children are inventory from their first breath. Maternal rights don't exist. You can't refuse if your infant is taken and given to another woman. Can't prevent your child being sold or gifted. Some women are separated from infants within days. Babies sent to different owners. The mother's milk dries up. Her arms are empty. Her child is somewhere she'll never know. This is generational trauma engineering. Deliberate. The empire doesn't just enslave individuals, it enslaves bloodlines. And it's all legal. All documented. All sanctioned and taxed. Conversion isn't about religion. It's a political tool. The ceremony is public. Witnesses required. An imam asks if you accept Islam. You say yes because saying no means disappearing. You recite the Shahada in Arabic, which you don't speak. Sounds you don't understand, committing to a faith you don't believe. The point isn't your soul. It's the legal status change. Under Ottoman Islamic law, apostasy, leaving Islam, is punishable by death. So once you convert, you can't convert back. Even if you escape. Even if you make it home. which means you can't go home. Not really. Your church won't accept you. You've committed heresy. You're damned. This is the genius of forced conversion. It doesn't just change your religion, it eliminates your escape route. Even if you break free physically, you have nowhere to go. Refusal is dealt with systematically. First, persuasion. Then pressure. Withheld meals. Isolation. Harder labor. Sleep deprivation. Then punishment. Starvation protocols. Isolation cells. Whipping. Enough to break will. Most break. Eventually, saying the word seems small compared to suffering that will stop if you comply. A few don't break. These women vanish. Other captives learn the lesson: conversion or disappearance. Post-conversion, nothing changes. You're still enslaved. Still performing the same labor. Except now you're required to pray 5 times daily. Fast during Ramadan. Observe Islamic law. And you can never go back. If you escape to Christian territory, you're an apostate. Church courts might execute you. At best, you'll be shunned. If you try to practice Christianity secretly in Ottoman territory, you'll be discovered. The penalty is public execution. You exist in permanent limbo. Not Christian anymore, not really Muslim. Not free, not even in your own mind. This is spiritual erasure completion. They took your name, your language, your family. Now you're God. The conversion certificates are kept in archives. Official documents. If you ever claim you're Christian, these prove you're lying. Some women try to maintain their faith secretly. Whispered prayers. Furtive signs of the cross. But memory fades. Years pass. The words stop coming. 20 years later, if someone asked what you believe, you might not have an answer. The faith of your childhood is too distant. The faith you were forced to adopt never felt real. You exist in religious vacuum, spiritually dead. They don't just imprison your body. They hollow out your soul. Not all enslaved women disappear into households. Some serve a different purpose. Weapons of psychological warfare. High-value targets are selected deliberately. Commanders' wives. Daughters of nobility. Women whose degradation will send the clearest message. After major conquests, Ottoman forces stage victory processions. Soldiers march. Banners wave. But among the formations, there's another element. A line of women in chains. Wives and daughters of the city's defenders, identified by name for the watching crowd. They're paraded through streets they used to walk freely. Past houses they used to visit. People who knew them are forced to watch. To see what resistance brought. The women are dressed deliberately. Sometimes in rags to show how far they've fallen. Sometimes in former finery, now torn, to emphasize the contrast. Sometimes stripped to emphasize vulnerability. The processions move slowly. Maximum visibility. The crowd must witness. Must internalize the lesson. Branding happens publicly too. Hot iron applied to shoulder or arm or face. Symbols marking them permanently as property. The iron heated until glowing. Pressed into flesh. The smell of burning skin. The screams. This isn't done privately because the point is to show everyone what happens to families of those who resist. To make resistance unthinkable. Role reversals are particularly cruel. A commander's wife assigned specifically to serve the man who killed her husband. Noble daughters cleaning quarters of common soldiers. Women who once had servants now emptying chamber pots. Break the spirit. Destroy pride. Make defiance seem absurd. Some humiliations are even more targeted. High-ranking captives forced to serve at feasts commemorating battles where their families died. To stand silent while enemy commanders boast. To smile while being displayed as trophies. Women forced to write letters home. Letters describing their treatment. Begging families not to resist future advances. These are propaganda tools used to encourage preemptive surrender. This is terror as strategy. And it works. Records show cities surrendering without battle after hearing about the fate of captured women. The stories spread faster than armies. For women who resist too much, standard slavery isn't enough. Iron cages suspended from city gates. Women locked in cages barely large enough to stand or sit. hung from gate arches where everyone entering or leaving must pass beneath. Given minimal food and water. Not enough to live indefinitely. Just enough to prolong death. She might survive a week. Sometimes two. The city watches her deteriorate. Watches her beg. Watches her eventual stillness. The body stays after death. Left as warning. Flesh rots. Bones remain. Sometimes cages stay occupied for months. Family destruction as punishment. A woman who attempts escape, if caught, doesn't just face punishment herself. Her children are brought before her. She's given a choice. Which child dies? Choose, or they all die. Some refuse to choose, hoping to save everyone. It doesn't. Officers choose for her, and she has to watch. Some choose, hoping to save at least one. That child is spared and she's left to live with what she did. To know she selected which of her children would die. This isn't punishment. It's destroying the person completely. So broken they can't think about resistance anymore. Gladiatorial degradation. This is rare but documented. Women forced to fight each other for soldier entertainment. Not to death usually, they are valuable property. But to submission. To exhaustion. Sometimes physical combat. Two women given clubs. Fight or both are punished. So they fight. Sometimes psychological. Two women competing for basics, food, water, blankets. Only one can have it. Turned against each other. Soldiers watch and bet on outcomes. Laugh. The women understand they are not human in these men's eyes. They are objects for amusement. Most comply. Because humans want to survive. Because you can only be strong for so long before you break. And the Empire knows this. Counts on it. The numbers tell a story chronicles try to hide. In the Balkans during the 1500s, entire regions experienced demographic collapse. Villages with balanced populations suddenly skew heavily male. A Serbian village in 1520, 240 men, 235 women. Same village in 1525 after Ottoman campaigns, 190 men, 87 women. Where are the missing women? In Constantinople markets. In Bursa households. In palace harems. Scattered across the empire, renamed, converted, erased. Scale this across hundreds of villages. Thousands. Historians estimate between 1453 and 1600, the Ottoman Empire enslaved somewhere between 500,000 and 2.5 million people. Of those, roughly 60 to 70% were women and children. This is demographic warfare. Removing women prevents populations from recovering through natural reproduction. Breaks family structures. Destroys community cohesion. The long-term effects span centuries. A woman taken in 1520 doesn't just represent one missing person. She represents all the children she would have borne, all the grandchildren who would have continued her family line. Those children are born instead in Ottoman territory. Raised as Ottoman subjects. Their descendants lose connection to the grandmother's origin within 2 or 3 generations. Cultural memory embeds differently. Balkan folk songs from the period are full of references to missing daughters, wives who disappeared. The trauma becomes part of collective identity. Fear inheritance is real. Communities develop deep distrust. This manifests in resistance movements, in the speed with which these regions break away when the empire finally weakens centuries later. Survivor testimony, when it exists, reveals the alienation of return. One Croatian woman ransomed after 3 years, I spoke to my mother in words she didn't understand. I prayed in a church that felt foreign. I had forgotten how to be the person I was. Language loss is common. 3 years of forced Turkish, prohibited native language, and fluency is gone. You think in Turkish now. Religious identity confusion. You were forced to convert. Now back in Christian territory, but the prayers feel as foreign as the Islamic ones did. Family rejection happens. You're contaminated now. Touched by the enemy. Converted. Your family might take you back out of obligation, but the warmth is gone. Stranger in homeland syndrome. You return to your village, but it's not home anymore. The person who lived here doesn't exist, and the person you are now has no place here. Most don't get the chance to return. Can't be ransomed. Can't escape. They remain in Ottoman territory permanently, dying decades later never seeing home again. The true obscenity isn't the violence. It's the paperwork. Ottoman bureaucracy documents everything. The archives in Istanbul contain ledgers documenting thousands of slave transactions. Each entry includes name, physical description, origin, sale price, tax collected, buyer information, date. Historians going through these describe the experience as surreal. Records of human suffering formatted like accounting books. Because that's what they are. These women were inventory. One historian found a ledger from 1537 listing 847 women sold in 3 months in Constantinople. Each name, each price, each tax calculation. Someone sat down and did the math. Added up the suffering. Calculated the profit. Court records show slavery cases with the same precision. Owner disputes. Inheritance conflicts. Damage claims when slaves are injured, treated like property damage. Legal legitimization runs through every level. This is government policy. State-sanctioned. Court-approved. Religiously blessed. When major purchases happen, contracts are drawn. Witnesses sign. A judge must approve to ensure it complies with Islamic law. The judge's seal. His signature. His official blessing. These documents still exist. In archives, you can see the judge's careful signature. Tax revenue from slavery is substantial. The 20% state tax generates enormous income. The imperial treasury budgets for it. Plans around it. Conquest campaigns are partly justified economically by the revenue they'll generate. The banality is crushing. These aren't sadistic monsters. These are administrators doing their jobs. Clerks filing paperwork. Judges ensuring legal compliance. Treating systematic enslavement as normal government business. Export of the system happens through documentation. Other Islamic states observe Ottoman efficiency and adopt similar methods. The Ottomans provide templates, recommended procedures, documentation formats, best practices. This spreads the system across regions. Morocco adopts elements. Persian states implement variations. Century after century, the machinery expands. For centuries, this history is hidden. Not because records don't exist, they do, in tremendous detail, but because nobody looks. Western historians focus on military campaigns, on sultans, on architecture. The women disappear from history as completely as they disappeared from their villages. Tolerance myth perpetuation starts in the 19th century. The Ottoman Empire portrayed as remarkably tolerant. Multiple religions coexisting. All true to an extent, but the narrative ignores what happened to conquered populations. Architectural focus means endless studies of beautiful buildings with minimal examination of who suffered to make them possible. Tourists visit Topkapı Palace and marvel. Few guides mention the harem as anything but exotic luxury. The erasure continues. Recent scholarship is changing this. Starting in the 1990s, historians begin seriously examining Ottoman slavery. Going into archives. Reading ledgers. Uncovering the scale. Primary source revelation comes in waves. Researchers find slave market records. Tax documents. Court cases. Letters from captives. The documentation is overwhelming once you start looking. Name theft's impact becomes clear. Renaming every woman. Record stripping. Origin erasure completion. They became paper property. The vanished haunt the archives. Women who disappeared. Secret chamber victims. Years without contact. Living ghosts. Memory fading until families stop asking what happened. Fear propagates faster than armies. Word of mouth is efficient. Stories of what happened to captured women spread to neighboring regions. To cities not yet conquered. The stories grow in telling, become more horrifying, more detailed. Preemptive surrender becomes common. Cities open gates when Ottoman armies approach rather than risk battle. Rather than risk what will happen to their wives and daughters if they resist. Gate-opening cases are documented. City councils deciding that immediate surrender, accepting Ottoman rule without fight, is preferable to the alternative. Wall defense abandoned not because they can't fight but because they've heard the stories. Scream-based intimidation. Not literal screams, though there are those too, but the screaming of previous conquests echoing forward. The reputation doing the work before armies arrive. Women as weapons. Womb militarization. Children as tools. Wives as strategic assets. Human weaponization completion. System efficiency peaks. Self-perpetuating mechanism. Generational automation. Minimal force required because the reputation does most of the work. Terror economy perfection. The complete erasures haunt historians most. Women who vanished. Archive gaps where records should be but aren't. Nameless graves. Stories never written. Fates unknown. Disappeared without trace. Silent chamber victims. Non-recorded deaths. Historical black holes where people should be but aren't. Questions without answers. How many total? The estimates range from 500,000 to 2.5 million, but the real number is unknowable. Not all were recorded. Not all records survived. What were their real names? The names in ledgers are assigned Turkish names. Their birth names, the names their mothers gave them, are lost. Maybe a handful survived in family histories. Most are gone forever. Did any escape and hide? Some must have. Slipped through somehow. Changed identities. Disappeared into populations where no one knew them. But there are no records. No way to know. What resistance went unrecorded? Women who fought and died before making it to markets. Women who killed themselves before capture. Women who resisted in small quiet ways that left no trace. Acts of defiance that happened in darkness and were buried there. The darkest truth. We'll never know. Erasure so complete that even finding the evidence of erasure is difficult. History's permanent loss. Silence as final weapon. The empire didn't just kill these women or enslave them. It erased them so thoroughly that centuries later, we're still trying to piece together what happened. Still finding ledgers and being shocked by what they contain. Still discovering that the scale was larger than anyone imagined. The machine worked. The erasure succeeded. These women are gone, and most of them are gone beyond recovery. Their names lost. Their stories lost. Their existence reduced to entries in accounting books. That's the final cruelty. Not just what was done to them, but that what was done was so effective that we can barely see the evidence now. They wanted to disappear these women from history. They succeeded. You now know what they endured. You carry knowledge they couldn't preserve. These women couldn't tell their stories. But you can amplify them. Subscribe to Crimson Historians now. Not for us, for them. Every subscription fights historical erasure. Every like pushes back against silence. If you don't subscribe after watching this, comment below and tell us why. Tell us why their stories don't matter enough. We'll wait. This is Crimson Historians, where we don't let history hide its crimes. Join us. Or scroll past. The choice reveals everything. Until next time, stay curious, stay uncomfortable.